Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the warship Valor, his eyes fixed on the massive view screen before him. The stars stretched endlessly in every direction, cold and distant. He had been staring at these same stars for 60 years, ever since humanity joined the Galactic Council. 60 years of service. 60 years of fighting their wars. 60 years of proving that humans deserved their place among the ancient species that ruled the galaxy. But tonight, something felt wrong. Jake was a tall man with gray hair and deep lines around his eyes. He had earned those lines commanding fleets in battles across the Outer Rim, protecting alien colonies from raiders and invaders. The Council called humans their greatest warriors. They praised human courage and cleverness. They gave medals and honors. But Jake had started noticing things that troubled him. The Council never shared their best technology with humans. They never invited human leaders to their most important meetings. When human soldiers died in battle, the Council sent polite messages but no real help for the families left behind. It was like being thanked for taking out the trash, appreciated but not respected. Dr. Sophie Chen had been warning him about this for years. Sophie was the chief scientist on his ship, a brilliant woman who studied alien biology and culture. She had short black hair and wore thick glasses that made her look younger than her 50 years. Sophie had a gift for seeing patterns that others missed. 3 months ago, Sophie came to his office with a worried expression. She closed the door carefully and sat down across from his desk. Her hands were shaking slightly. "The Council is hiding something big," she had said quietly. "I have been analyzing their communication patterns and resource movements. Something does not add up. They are building something in secret, and they are moving human forces away from certain sectors deliberately." Jake had listened, but hesitated to act. Accusing the Council of conspiracy without proof would be dangerous, but Sophie kept digging, and what she found made his blood run cold. Now standing on the bridge near the Kepler Nebula, Jake watched as Captain Ryan Cross brought his destroyer into formation. Ryan was young, only 32, with sandy blonde hair and the eager energy of someone who still believed in the cause. His ship, the Defiant, was one of the newer models in the human fleet. Ryan had named it himself, though he probably did not realize how fitting that name would soon become. "Admiral, we are picking up strange readings from the nebula," Ryan reported over the communication channel. "There is some kind of facility hidden in the gas clouds. It is not on any of our charts." Jake felt his stomach tighten. "Send a recon probe," he ordered. "Full stealth mode. I want to know what is in there without alerting anyone." The probe launched silently, slipping into the colorful gases of the nebula. The crew watched their screens in tense silence. Minutes crawled by. Then the data started coming back. Sophie appeared at Jake's side, her tablet glowing with information. Her face had gone pale. "Admiral, you need to see this. That facility is massive. It is a weapons research station, and according to these energy signatures, they are testing something that works on biological targets, something that could affect entire populations." "What kind of weapon?" Jake asked, though he already feared the answer. Sophie pulled up a detailed scan. "A genetic suppressor. It can be programmed to target specific DNA patterns. It could make a species unable to reproduce, or it could alter brain chemistry to make them more passive and obedient. The Council has been developing this for decades." Jake's hands gripped the railing of his command platform. "Why would they need such a thing?" "The Council preaches peace for control," Sophie said simply. "Any species that questions them could be neutralized without firing a single shot. And Jake, I found something else in their data. They have human DNA samples. Millions of them. They have been collecting them from every medical facility, every military base, every colony we have established." The bridge went absolutely silent. Every officer had heard Sophie's words. They all understood what it meant. The Council had not just been using humans as soldiers. They had been preparing to control them, or worse, to eliminate them if they ever became a threat. Jake made his decision. "Get me Ambassador Kate Williams on a secure channel." Now, Kate Williams was humanity's voice in the Council chambers. She was a determined woman in her 40s with red hair and sharp green eyes. She had spent 15 years navigating Council politics, always trying to improve humanity's standing. Jake trusted her completely. The communication channel opened, but Kate's face was tight with stress. "Jake, I was about to contact you. Something terrible has happened. I confronted the Council with evidence about their secret weapons program. I thought they would deny it. I thought we could negotiate. What did they do? Jake asked, dreading the answer. They did not deny anything, Kate said, her voice shaking. They just smiled and told me that humanity had served its purpose. They said we were too dangerous to be allowed to grow stronger. Then they activated their plan. Jake, Council forces are moving toward Earth right now. They are occupying our colonies. They are cutting off all our communications. This is an invasion. The words hit Jake like a physical blow. How long do we have? Hours, maybe less. But Jake, there is something else. 6 months ago, after my suspicions grew, I spoke with the human military command in secret. We prepared for this possibility. We have contingency plans, hidden supply bases, and encrypted communication networks that the Council does not know about. We are not helpless. Kate's image flickered. The signal was breaking up. They are jamming communications. I do not have much time. Jake, there is a code phrase that will activate all the protocols. Every human military unit, every colony, every ship will know what to do. But I need you to give the order. You are the ranking admiral of the fleet. The people will follow you. What is the code phrase? Jake asked. Kate looked directly into the camera, her eyes blazing with determination. Tell them we gave the order. That is all. Everyone will understand. The screen went dark. The communication was cut. Jake stood in the sudden silence, feeling the weight of what was about to happen. Around him, his crew waited. These were people he had served with for years. Good people who had trusted the Council, who had believed in galactic peace. He turned to face them. Open a channel to all human forces in this sector. Full broadcast. The communication officer nodded. You're live, Admiral. Jake took a deep breath. This is Admiral Jake Morrison to all human forces. The Galactic Council has betrayed us. They are moving to occupy Earth and our colonies. They have been planning this for years, but we are not caught unprepared. We will not surrender. We will not submit. As of this moment, we gave the order. Execute Protocol Liberty. Morrison out. Across the sector, human ships suddenly changed course. Hidden weapon systems activated. Sleeper agents in Council territories woke up and began their missions. Civilian ships scattered to predetermined safe zones. The machine that Kate and the military command had built in secret roared to life. Ryan Cross appeared on the screen, his young face set with grim determination. Admiral, the Defiant is ready. What are your orders? Jake looked at the tactical display. Council ships were already moving into human space. They outnumbered the human fleet 10-1. But numbers were not everything. Humans had learned from 60 years of fighting the Council's wars. They knew every trick, every weakness, every shortcut. We hit their supply lines, Jake ordered. Fast raids, then scatter. We cannot win a direct fight, but we can make them bleed for every inch. And we buy time for Earth to evacuate. Sophie placed a hand on his shoulder. We will survive this, Jake. Humans always survive. Jake nodded slowly. He thought about Earth, the blue planet where humanity was born. He thought about the millions of people who were about to lose their homes. He thought about the Council's arrogance, their certainty that they could crush humanity like insects. They were about to learn something that every enemy of humanity eventually discovered. Humans did not break easily. They adapted. They endured. And when they were pushed too far, they pushed back harder than anyone expected. The Galactic Council had betrayed humans, thinking they were too primitive to mount a real resistance. But in giving that order to attack, the Council had made their greatest mistake, because now humanity had given their own order, and that order would echo across the galaxy. Earth burned, but it did not die. Commander Lisa Bennett watched from a hidden bunker as Council warships filled the sky above New York. The massive alien vessels hovered over the city like dark clouds, their weapons pointed downward in silent threat. She had been an intelligence officer for 20 years, and when Admiral Morrison's message came through, she knew exactly what to do. Lisa was a short woman with dark skin and close-cropped hair. She moved with the careful precision of someone trained to notice everything. While most people ran in panic, she had stayed behind with a team of volunteers. Their mission was simple but dangerous. Keep the resistance alive on occupied Earth. The Council's attack had come fast, but Earth's defenses held longer than expected. The orbital platforms, secretly upgraded beyond Council specifications, destroyed dozens of enemy ships before being overwhelmed. That bought precious hours for evacuation ships to escape. Millions of people fled into deep space, following routes that only human navigators knew about. But millions more remained behind. Some could not reach the evacuation points in time. Others chose to stay and fight. Lisa's job was to organize them, to turn ordinary citizens into a resistance network that would make the council regret every moment of their occupation. They have broadcasting stations set up all over the planet, her assistant reported. A young man named Danny with nervous hands and quick eyes. They are telling everyone that humans tried to overthrow the council, that we stole technology and planned to attack peaceful species. Most aliens are believing it. Lisa nodded grimly. The council was good at propaganda. They had thousands of years of practice. Let them talk. We will show the truth through our actions. Start spreading the word through the underground networks. Tell our people to stay calm. Follow council orders for now, but watch and listen. We need information about their forces, their routines, their weaknesses. While Earth struggled under occupation, Admiral Morrison's fleet scattered across the galaxy. Ships broke into small groups and disappeared into the dark spaces between stars. The council sent hunter groups to find them. But humans had learned something valuable during their 60 years of service. They knew how to hide. Captain Ryan Cross took the Defiant deep into an asteroid field that the council charts listed as too dangerous for navigation. His crew worked in tense silence, threading their ship between tumbling rocks the size of mountains. It was risky, but the council ships pursuing them turned back. They would not risk their expensive vessels in such a hazardous area. Once safely hidden, Ryan gathered his officers. We cannot win by fighting their fleets directly. We need to be smart, hit their supply convoys, destroy their fuel depots, make them spend resources hunting us instead of conquering more human territory. His tactical officer, a woman named Amy with sharp features and sharper instincts, pulled up a star map. Sir, there is a council logistics hub 3 systems away. It supplies their forces in this entire sector. If we take it out, we could seriously disrupt their operations. Ryan studied the map. The hub would be heavily defended. A direct assault would be suicide. But maybe they did not need a direct assault. Humans had always been good at thinking sideways. Get me the ship's engineer. I have an idea. The ship's engineer was Kevin Park, a genius who looked more like a college student than a military officer. He was thin, wore glasses that constantly slid down his nose, and had a habit of talking to himself while working. But Kevin had a gift that made him invaluable. He could look at alien technology and understand it, then make it better. For years, Kevin had been secretly studying council technology, looking for weaknesses. The council's ships all used the same basic operating system, the same navigation computers, the same identification codes. Kevin had been quietly collecting that information, storing it away, thinking someday it might be useful. That someday had arrived. Captain Cross explained his plan. We fake a distress call using council codes. Make them think one of their supply ships is damaged and drifting. When they send help, we board their rescue vessel and take their uniforms, their access codes, everything. Then we walk right into that logistics hub pretending to be them. Kevin pushed his glasses up and grinned. I can make our ship's identification broadcast match any council vessel you want. And I have been working on something else, a virus I can upload into their computer systems. It will not destroy them immediately. Instead, it will spread slowly through their network, corrupting data, causing malfunctions, making their own technology unreliable. The plan worked perfectly. Council forces responded to the fake distress call, and Ryan's Marines captured their rescue ship without firing a shot. Wearing stolen uniforms and using stolen codes, a small team infiltrated the logistics hub. They moved through the facility calmly, nodding at guards, acting like they belonged. Kevin plugged into the hub's main computer. His fingers flew across the keyboard, inserting his virus deep into the system. Around him, the other humans planted explosives in key locations, placing them carefully where they would cause maximum damage. They had 30 minutes before shift change when their stolen identities might be discovered. They made it back to their shuttle with 5 minutes to spare. As they lifted off, the explosives detonated. The logistics hub erupted in a series of massive explosions. Fuel tanks ignited. Ammunition stores went up. The entire facility became a ball of fire visible from orbit. Ryan watched from the Defiant's bridge as they jumped to faster-than-light speed, escaping before council reinforcements arrived. That was for Earth, he said quietly. News of the raid spread quickly through human networks. Scattered survivors took hope from it. They were not helpless. They could fight back. More raids followed. Human ships hit targets across dozens of systems, then vanished before the Council could respond. It was guerrilla warfare on a galactic scale. Dr. Sophie Chen worked from a hidden research station in deep space. She had gathered a team of human scientists and a few aliens who questioned the Council's actions. They studied the genetic suppressor weapon, looking for ways to counter it. Sophie barely slept, driven by the knowledge that the Council could activate that weapon at any moment. One of her team members was an alien named Vex, from a species called the Chithar. Vex looked like a large insect with 6 limbs and compound eyes. His people had suffered under Council exploitation for centuries. When Sophie offered him a chance to strike back, he accepted immediately. The Chithar have extensive tunnel networks throughout the galaxy, Vex explained in his clicking, translated voice. The Council thinks we are simple miners. They do not realize our tunnels connect thousands of systems. We could move your people through these tunnels, hide them, supply them. But there is a cost. If the Council discovers we are helping you, they will destroy my species. Sophie looked at the insectoid alien with respect. Why would you take such a risk for us? Vex's mandibles clicked in what might have been a smile. Because you humans are the first species in 1,000 years to actually fight back. The Council grows lazy and arrogant. They believe their power is absolute. You are proving them wrong. That gives hope to all of us who suffer under their rule. Admiral Morrison established a hidden command center in an abandoned station near the Galactic core. It was a wreck of a place, barely functional, which was exactly why the Council would never look for him there. Human engineers worked around the clock to make it livable, to restore its systems, to turn it into a fortress. Reports came in from across the galaxy. 30 human colonies had fallen to the Council, but twice that many had evacuated successfully or were holding out with fierce resistance. The human fleet, though scattered, was intact and growing bolder with each raid. And slowly, other species were starting to question the Council's story. Jake sat in his makeshift office reviewing intelligence reports. Ambassador Kate Williams appeared on his screen. She had escaped Earth's fall and was now coordinating diplomatic efforts from a hidden ship. The Council is getting desperate, Kate reported. Their propaganda is not working as well as they hoped. Too many species remember humans saving their worlds, protecting their people. There are whispers of doubt. Some Council members are questioning the invasion. Jake allowed himself a small smile. We need to keep applying pressure. Every successful raid, every act of resistance makes them look weaker. But we cannot do this forever. We need allies, real allies who will stand with us openly. Kate nodded. I am working on it. There are species who hate the Council as much as we do now. The Chithar are already helping. The Valorian traders are sympathetic. We just need the right moment to bring them into the open. On Earth, Lisa Bennett's resistance network grew stronger each day. Her people sabotaged Council equipment, spread counter-propaganda, and provided intelligence to the fleet. The Council forces occupying Earth grew frustrated. They had expected quick submission. Instead, they faced constant small rebellions that sapped their strength and morale. One night, Lisa stood on a rooftop in the ruins of Chicago, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Jake and the fleet were fighting. Somewhere, humans were proving they would not be broken. She thought about the phrase that had started it all. We gave the order. Those words had meaning beyond just activating protocols. They meant... The mining colony of Novara hung in space like a dying star. The planet below was rich with valuable minerals, but the Chithar people who lived there saw little benefit. They dug the ore, processed the metals, and watched as Council ships hauled away their world's wealth. In return, they received barely enough food and supplies to survive. Admiral Morrison stood in the briefing room of his hidden station, looking at images of Novara. Dr. Sophie Chen had brought him a proposal that seemed crazy at first. Instead of just raiding Council targets, they should liberate one. Show the galaxy what humanity truly stood for. The Chithar have been helping us in secret, Sophie explained, pointing at the holographic display, but they are still under Council control. If we free them, really free them, it sends a message. We are not conquerors. We are liberators. Jake studied the tactical situation. Novara was defended by a Council garrison, but not a large one. The Council had never worried about the Chithar rebelling. They were considered weak, passive. That was their mistake. It will be dangerous. If we fail, it could destroy our momentum. And if we succeed, Sophie countered, we gain allies who know every tunnel system in the galaxy. The Chithar network is vast. With their help, we could move forces anywhere without the Council detecting us. Captain Ryan Cross volunteered immediately when he heard about the mission. His crew had been hitting Council targets for months and morale was high. They wanted to do more than just destroy things. They wanted to build something too. The attack on Novara came at dawn. Human ships dropped from faster-than-light speed directly over the colony. Council defenders scrambled to respond, but they were used to fighting poorly armed miners, not trained military forces. The battle was sharp and brutal but short. Ryan led the ground assault personally. His Marines moved through the colony with precision, targeting military installations while carefully avoiding civilian areas. They had strict orders. No unnecessary casualties. No looting. No revenge. This was liberation, not conquest. Within 6 hours, the Council garrison surrendered. The Chithar workers emerged from their tunnels cautiously, unsure what to expect. They had seen many battles over the years, and every time, the winner treated them the same way, as property to be exploited. What happened next shocked them. Jake arrived on the planet's surface and met with the Chithar elders. They were ancient insectoid beings, their carapaces worn and scarred from decades of hard labor. Through translators, Jake spoke to them directly. Novara is yours. We are not here to conquer you or rule you. We are offering you freedom. The choice is yours to make. The eldest of the Chithar leaders, whose name translated roughly as Stone Who Endures, clicked his mandibles in confusion. You spent resources and lives to take this world, yet you offer it freely? What do you want in return? Jake smiled. Friendship, if you will offer it. Alliance, if you believe in our cause. But even if you choose to remain neutral, we will not force you. Your world is your own. Sophie stepped forward with a data tablet. We brought medical supplies, food, and technology for processing your minerals more efficiently. These are gifts, not payment. We also have engineers who can help repair the damage from the battle. Stone Who Endures stared at the humans for a long moment. His compound eyes reflected the light in strange patterns. No species has ever done this. The Council takes. Other species trade only for advantage. You fight a war you cannot win, yet you give away what you capture. Why? Because, Jake said quietly, we remember what it was like to be weak. Humans spent thousands of years fighting each other, suffering, struggling. We learned that real strength is not about crushing others. It is about lifting them up. The Council forgot that lesson. We will not. The Chithar elders conferred in their clicking language. Finally, Stone Who Endures spoke again. The Chithar have tunnels that span the galaxy, hidden paths the Council does not know exist. We will open them to you. More than that, we will fight beside you. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. News of Novara's liberation spread through the galaxy like wildfire. The Council tried to suppress the story, but it was too late. Other species began questioning the official narrative. If humans were savage conquerors, why did they free Novara? If they were thieves and traitors, why did they give away supplies they desperately needed? Ambassador Kate Williams used the momentum brilliantly. She contacted species that had long suffered under Council exploitation. The Valorian traders who paid crushing tariffs. The Keth collective whose worlds were strip-mined for resources. The dozens of minor species who had no voice in Council chambers. She offered them something revolutionary. Not human rule replacing Council rule, but genuine equality. A chance to govern themselves, trade fairly, and be heard. The Valorians were the next to join openly. Their leader, a tall being named Zara with silver skin and 3 eyes, met with Kate in secret. My people control most shipping lanes in the galaxy. We see everything. We know the Council is lying about you. We also know they tax us into poverty while their core worlds grow fat. If you truly offer fair trade, the Valorian fleet is yours. The Keth collective followed. They were silicon-based life forms, living computers essentially, and they hated the Council with a cold, logical intensity. The Council had destroyed 3 of their worlds to mine rare elements. They had murdered billions of Keth without remorse or apology. Their representative, a crystalline being named Prime 7, communicated through computer interfaces. We offer our processing power and network capabilities. With Keth assistance, you can hack any Council system, break any code, trace any communication, but we require a promise. When this war ends, the Council must face justice for their crimes. Kate agreed immediately. Justice for all who suffered. That is what we are fighting for. In his hidden station, Jake called a meeting of all the Allied leaders. Human officers sat beside insectoid Chithar, reptilian Valorians, and crystalline Keth. It was a strange gathering, but there was real unity in that room. They had all been betrayed or exploited by the Council. They all wanted something better. "We are forming the Free Species Coalition," Kate announced. "Not an empire or a dictatorship, but a true alliance. Every species has equal voice. Every decision requires consensus. It will be messy and difficult, but it will be fair." Stone, who endures, clicked his approval. "The coalition needs a military commander. We propose Admiral Morrison. He has proven both his courage and his wisdom." Jake started to refuse, but Sophie touched his arm. "You are the right choice. Everyone trusts you on one condition," Jake said firmly. "Civilian oversight. We establish a council of civilian leaders who can overrule military decisions. I will not become another council dictator. We need checks and balances." The Allied leaders agreed. Kate became head of the Civilian Oversight Council. It was a revolutionary structure. No galactic government had ever been organized this way. The council ruled through power and fear. The coalition would be built on consent and cooperation. Sophie took on the task of understanding the council's true history. She gathered every record she could find, interviewed every species with long memories. What she discovered was sad and enlightening. 1,000 years ago, the council species were different. They faced a terrible enemy, something from outside the galaxy that nearly destroyed them all. To survive, they developed the Genesis suppressor weapon. It worked, the enemy was defeated, but the weapon's existence changed them. Power corrupts, especially when unchallenged, Sophie explained to Jake. They started using the weapon to control other species, to prevent any potential threats. Fear turned them into the very thing they once fought against. They became tyrants. Can they be redeemed? Jake asked. Sophie considered. Some of them, maybe. The council is not monolithic. There are factions who doubt this war, members who remember what their ancestors stood for. We need to reach them. On Earth, Commander Lisa Bennett's resistance network received a message from the coalition. Help was coming. The occupation would not last forever. Her people took heart from the news. They increased their sabotage operations, making the Council forces' lives miserable. The Council garrison commander on Earth sent increasingly desperate reports to his superiors. Human resistance is not breaking. They attack constantly, then fade away. Civilian population remains hostile, requesting permission to use harsher measures. But the Council High Command hesitated. Reports from other fronts were troubling. The war was not going as planned. Human forces, now reinforced by allies, were winning battles. Council supply lines were collapsing. Public opinion was turning against them. In the coalition's hidden station, engineers worked day and night building a new fleet. Chithar provided materials from their mining operations. Valorians smuggled in components. Keth designed advanced systems, and human workers assembled it all, creating ships that combined the best of every species' technology. Captain Ryan Cross inspected one of the new vessels. It was beautiful in a deadly way, sleek and powerful. Kevin Park stood beside him, grinning with pride. These ships do not rely on Council technology at all. They are completely independent, and they are faster, tougher, and better armed than anything the Council has. We can finally stand and fight instead of just running. Ryan smiled. How many can we build? Kevin's grin widened. As many as we need. The Chithar tunnels give us... Unity Station hung in orbit like a crown above the Council's capital world. It was the largest artificial structure in the galaxy, a monument to Council power that had stood for 2,000 years. Every important decision in galactic history had been made within its gleaming walls. Control Unity Station, and you controlled the heart of the Council itself. Admiral Jake Morrison looked at the tactical display showing Unity Station's defenses. Weapons platforms surrounded it like a deadly halo. Shields that could withstand planet-killer weapons protected its hull. The station's garrison numbered in the tens of thousands, including the Council's elite guard. It was, by any reasonable military assessment, impossible to capture, which was exactly why Jake planned to try. The Coalition War Council gathered in the command center. Captain Ryan Cross, Commander Lisa Bennett, who had escaped from Earth during a daring rescue operation, Dr. Sophie Chen, Ambassador Kate Williams, and representatives from the Chithar, Valorian, and Keth allies. They all knew what was at stake. If we take Unity Station, the war is essentially over, Kate explained. The Council's authority comes from that station. It is their symbol and their seat of power, but the cost will be terrible. We could lose half our fleet in the assault. Ryan studied the display with the intensity of a man who had fought dozens of battles. We need a diversion, something big enough to draw their fleet away from the station. Then we hit them with everything we have. Stone, who endures, the Chithar elder, clicked thoughtfully. The Chithar tunnels extend even to the Council's home system. We have never used them there because discovery would mean our extinction. But now we can move forces directly into the system without detection, appear from nowhere. Kevin Park, now the Coalition's chief engineer, pulled up technical schematics of Unity Station. I have been studying their systems through the Keth network. Every Council vessel and station shares the same basic computer architecture. The virus I planted months ago has been spreading quietly. On my signal, I can trigger massive system failures across their entire fleet. Sophie added her piece. While you attack militarily, I will lead a team to broadcast the truth about the Genesis suppressor to every world in the galaxy. The Council has suppressed that information for 1,000 years. Once everyone knows what they truly are, their moral authority collapses completely. Jake looked around the table at his allies. These were not just soldiers following orders. They were people who believed in something larger than themselves. Freedom, justice, a galaxy where strength came from cooperation, not domination. We launch in 3 days. May whatever gods any of us believe in have mercy on us all. The preparations were intense. Ships were loaded with weapons and supplies. Fighters were tuned to perfection. Troops trained for urban combat in the station's corridors. Everyone knew some would not return. But no one hesitated. They had come too far to turn back now. Ryan stood in the Defiance hangar bay watching his crew prepare their fighters. His tactical officer, Amy, approached him with a grim expression. Sir, statistical analysis suggests our survival odds are about 30%. Just wanted you to know, Ryan smiled. Better than last week's mission. Those were 20% odds and we made it through. Besides, statistics do not account for human stubbornness. On Earth, Lisa coordinated with the Resistance Network. When the assault on Unity Station began, every resistance cell on occupied worlds would rise up simultaneously. The Council forces would be caught between external attack and internal rebellion. It was a desperate gamble, but desperate times called for desperate measures. The attack began at dawn on the Council's capital world. Ryan's fleet emerged from faster-than-light speed at the system's edge, broadcasting false distress signals and electronic noise. Council forces rushed to intercept what appeared to be a panicked, disorganized assault. It was exactly what Jake wanted them to think. While the Council fleet moved away from Unity Station to engage Ryan's ships, Jake's main force waited in the Chithar tunnels. These were not physical tunnels, but quantum pathways through space that the insectoid species had discovered millennia ago. The Council had never suspected their existence. Now, Kevin ordered from his technical station. His virus activated across the Council's computer networks. Weapon systems went offline. Shield generators flickered. Communications became scrambled. It was not total chaos, but it was enough. The Council forces were blinded and confused at the worst possible moment. All ships jump, Jake commanded. The Coalition fleet emerged from the tunnel network directly beside Unity Station. Hundreds of ships appeared in an instant, their weapons already firing. The surprise was total. Council defenders scrambled to respond, but their systems were failing. Their commanders were confused, and their main fleet was too far away to help. The battle was fierce. Council weapons platforms fired desperately, destroying Coalition ships with every shot. But for every ship lost, 2 more pressed forward. Chithar warriors in specialized assault craft cut through the station's hull, creating breach points. Valorian boarding parties poured through, fighting in the corridors. Keth infiltrators hacked into the station's systems, opening doors and venting atmosphere in strategic areas. Sophie's team penetrated the station's communications center. She connected her equipment to the main broadcast system, overriding every security protocol. The Keth had given her access codes that the Council thought were impossible to break. People of the galaxy, this is Dr. Sophie Chen of the Free Species Coalition. For 1,000 years, the Council has hidden a terrible truth from you. She began broadcasting files, images, technical data about the Genesis suppressor. She showed how it worked, what it could do, and the list of species the Council had used it on. The broadcast went out to every planet, every ship, every station in the galaxy. It could not be stopped or censored. The truth poured out like water from a broken dam. On occupied Earth, Lisa's signal went out. Resistance fighters emerged from hiding. Council forces, already demoralized by news from the home system, found themselves fighting on every street corner. Some surrendered immediately. Others fought half-heartedly. They had lost faith in their cause. Ryan's fleet, having completed its diversion, turned and raced back toward Unity Station. The Council fleet followed, but they were too late. By the time they arrived, Coalition forces controlled most of the station. The fighting continued, room by room, corridor by corridor, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. Jake led a team of Marines toward the station's command center. They fought through the elite Council guards, taking casualties but never stopping. Finally, they breached the reinforced doors and entered the chamber where the Council's leaders had governed the galaxy for 2,000 years. The Supreme Chancellor of the Council waited there. He was an ancient being, his species so old that humans had no name for it. He looked tired beyond measure, standing alone in the vast command chamber. "You have won, Admiral Morrison," the Chancellor said in perfect English. "Our fleet is scattered. Our authority is broken, and the truth we hid is now known by all. I could activate the station's self-destruct, take us all with me, but I find I lack the will for such gestures." He sat down heavily in his command chair. "Tell me something, Admiral. What will you become when you win? Will you be different from us, or will power corrupt you as it corrupted the Council?" Jake lowered his weapon. He had expected a final battle, a dramatic confrontation. Instead, he faced a question he had been asking himself for months. "I do not know. Power is seductive. It would be easy to tell you that humans are different, that we will not make your mistakes, but I have seen enough of history to know that is probably a lie. Then why fight?" the Chancellor asked. "Why not accept Council rule? At least we brought order, peace of a sort." Ambassador Kate Williams entered the command center, Sophie at her side. Kate spoke up. "Because peace built on fear and control is not real peace. It is just delayed conflict. You ruled for 2,000 years, but you ruled over subjects, not equals. We are offering something different. Not human rule, not Council rule, but genuine cooperation. Will it be messy? Yes. Will it be perfect? Never. But it will be honest." Sophie stepped forward. "Chancellor, I have studied your history. Your species was not always like this. 1,000 years ago you fought a terrible enemy and won, but victory changed you. Fear made you tyrants. That weapon you created to defend yourselves became a tool of oppression. But it is not too late to remember what you once were." The Chancellor looked at them with eyes that held millennia of weariness. "What do you propose?"
Kate answered.
"Dissolve the Council. Destroy the Genesis suppressor completely. Share its technology so no one can rebuild it secretly. Then help us build something new. A galactic assembly where every species has voice and vote. Where power is shared, not hoarded. Where the strong protect the weak instead of exploiting them. And if the Council species refuse?" the Chancellor asked. "Then you face justice for your crimes," Jake said firmly. "But not vengeance. Fair trials, real accountability. Some of your people may be imprisoned. Some may be forgiven. But the system that allowed such abuses will end today." The Chancellor sat in silence for a long moment. Outside, the sounds of battle faded as Coalition forces secured the station. Finally, he stood up. The Genesis suppressor died in fire. Representatives from every species in the galaxy gathered to watch its destruction. The massive weapon that had held entire civilizations in terror for 1,000 years was loaded into a specially designed ship and launched into a star. It took 3 hours for the ship to reach the star's corona. When it finally entered the burning gases, sensors detected the weapon's complete disintegration. Dr. Sophie Chen stood beside the former Supreme Chancellor, now just an elderly being named Veros. They watched the destruction together on a view screen in Unity Station's observation deck. "We built that weapon to save ourselves," Veros said quietly. "It ended up almost destroying everything we valued. Such is the nature of fear," Sophie nodded. "But you chose to destroy it rather than use it. That took courage. Maybe more courage than building it in the first place." Veros managed a weak smile. "Tell that to those who suffered under Council rule. I doubt they will see my decision as courageous." "Probably not," Sophie agreed. "But justice is not the same as vengeance. You will face trials, answer for crimes, make restitution. But you will also have the chance to help build something better. That is more than many tyrants throughout history received." The new Galactic Assembly met for the first time in the same chamber where the Council once ruled. But the layout had changed dramatically. Instead of raised thrones where Council members looked down on petitioners, there were simple chairs arranged in concentric circles. Every species had equal seating. Every voice carried equal weight. Ambassador Kate Williams stood to address the assembly. She looked tired but satisfied. The war had aged her, added gray to her red hair and new lines to her face. But her voice remained strong. We gather here not as masters and subjects, but as equals. The charter before you establishes simple principles. No species may rule over others. All disputes will be resolved through arbitration, not force. Technology and resources will be shared for the common good. And most importantly, leadership will rotate among all species. No one holds permanent power. A representative from one of the former council species stood up. This is chaos. How can anything be accomplished when every decision requires consensus from hundreds of species? The old system was efficient. Kate smiled patiently. Efficiency is not the highest good. Justice is. Freedom is. Yes, decisions will be slower. Yes, we will argue and disagree. But those arguments will be heard. Those disagreements will be resolved fairly, and everyone will have the right to participate. That is worth some inefficiency. Stone, who endures, the Chethar elder, clicked his approval. My species spent centuries under council rule, working, suffering, unheard. This new system is chaotic, yes. It is also beautiful. For the first time in our long history, we have real voice. The assembly voted. The charter passed by overwhelming majority. 3 species abstained, still uncertain about the new order. But even they did not vote against it. The Galactic Assembly was born. Admiral Jake Morrison retired the day after the vote. He had served his purpose, led when leadership was needed, but he had no desire for power in peacetime. He returned to Earth, to a rebuilt home in the mountains of Colorado. The view stretched for miles, showing forests recovering from the occupation's damage. Captain Ryan Cross came to visit him there, now Admiral Cross and commander of the human fleet. But it was a very different fleet than before. Mixed crews from a dozen species served on human ships. Human officers served on alien vessels. The barriers were coming down slowly but surely. They sat on Jake's porch drinking coffee and watching the sunset. Do you think it will last? Ryan asked. The peace, I mean. The assembly is so fragile. One major crisis could tear it apart. Jake considered the question. Nothing lasts forever. Empires fall, systems change, even stars die. But we gave the galaxy something worth fighting for. Not human dominance or council control, but real cooperation. If it fails, it will not be because the idea was wrong. It will be because we were not strong enough to maintain it. Ryan nodded. I sent you something, by the way. It should arrive tomorrow. A gift from the fleet. The gift turned out to be a plaque. Simple metal with engraved words. We gave the order. Below that, a list of names. Every human who died in the war. Every soldier, civilian, resistance fighter who sacrificed themselves for freedom. Jake hung it in his home, a reminder of what the phrase truly meant. Commander Lisa Bennett became Earth's representative to the Galactic Assembly. She had spent the war fighting in shadows, organizing resistance, keeping hope alive. Now she fought in the open, arguing for fair treatment, advocating for those who still suffered from the war's aftermath. She was fierce and uncompromising, and the assembly quickly learned to respect her voice. Sophie Chen established the Institute for Interspecies Understanding on Unity Station. The former seat of council power became a school where young beings from every species learned together. They studied each other's cultures, histories, and perspectives. Sophie walked through the halls daily, watching students from 100 worlds eat together, study together, become friends. This is how we prevent another council, she told her staff. Not through laws or weapons, but through understanding. These children will grow up seeing diversity as normal, cooperation as natural. They will not repeat our mistakes. Kevin Park became famous throughout the galaxy as the engineer who freed technology from council control. His innovations were shared freely under the new system. Faster engines, better medical equipment, more efficient power systems. He could have become wealthy beyond measure, but he refused all payment. Knowledge belongs to everyone, he insisted. Keeping it secret or selling it for profit only creates new hierarchies. The Chethar opened their tunnel networks to all species. What had been secret pathways became trade routes, communication lines, and highways for cultural exchange. The galaxy suddenly felt smaller, more connected. Species that had never met now traded goods and ideas freely. The Valorians used their trading expertise to establish fair commerce practices. They created a currency system that prevented exploitation, regulated trade to protect weaker economies, and ensured resources were distributed equitably. It was not perfect, but it was honest. The Keth Collective provided the technological infrastructure for the new government. Their computer networks connected every world, allowing instant communication and transparent record-keeping. Corruption became difficult when everything was visible, verifiable, and recorded. But the transition was not smooth. Some former council species resented losing their privileges. There were terrorist attacks, assassination attempts, and small rebellions. Ryan's fleet spent most of its time doing peacekeeping work, stopping violence before it could spread. 3 council species who had fought most viciously against humanity asked for mercy. They had lost the war, and under old rules would have been destroyed or enslaved. Instead, they received fair trials. Some leaders were imprisoned for their crimes. Others were required to make restitution to the species they had harmed. But none were destroyed. None were made slaves. Captain Cross, whose ship had suffered terrible losses during the war, spoke at one of the trials. He looked directly at the accused war criminal, a council admiral who had ordered the bombardment of civilian targets. "You killed people I cared about. You destroyed homes and families without mercy. Part of me wants revenge, but revenge would make me like you, would perpetuate the cycle of violence that nearly destroyed us all. So instead I offer you justice. You will be held accountable. You will serve time. You will work to repair what you broke. But you will live, and perhaps someday you will understand why we chose mercy over vengeance." The admiral wept. Whether from shame or relief or both, no one could say. Years passed. The wounds of war slowly healed. Mixed species crews became common. Interspecies friendships formed. Some species began intermingling culturally, creating new art, new music, new ways of thinking that combined different perspectives. Human students at Sophie's Institute studied the war. They analyzed the decisions, the battles, the costs. One student, a young woman named Hope, asked Sophie a question that made the old scientist smile. "Dr. Chen, why did humans win? The council had better technology, more ships, ancient knowledge. By all logic, you should have lost." Sophie thought carefully before answering. "We won because we fought for something larger than ourselves. The council fought to maintain power. We fought for freedom, for justice, for a better future. When you fight for something you truly believe in, you find strength you did not know you had. But more importantly, we were not alone. The Chithar, the Valorians, the Keth, and dozens of other species joined us. That was our real strength. Unity born from shared values, not forced submission." The student nodded thoughtfully. "So it was not that humans were special. It was that you showed others they could be free." Sophie smiled. "Exactly. That is the real lesson of the war. One species, no matter how strong or clever, cannot change the galaxy alone. But many species working together, supporting each other, believing in each other, that can change everything." On the 10th anniversary of the war's end, the Galactic Assembly held a memorial ceremony. Representatives from every species attended. They honored the dead from all sides, remembered the suffering, and rededicated themselves to preventing such conflict in the future. Ambassador Williams gave the keynote speech. She was older, Ning,